Live your life like a dreamer. Fly all over the world. Open yourself so the world can see. You're a beautiful pearl. Live your day like you mean it. And don't forget who you are. You're free to go anywhere. There's no distance too far. And I just can't get enough of your energy. I just can't get enough. You're the spark shining in the dark. Oh, 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 love.
Welcome to It Is What It Is with Cindy Seville. I am so excited you're here today. We have another fabulous show in store for you. It Is What It Is a show all about real people, real life issues, real life adversity, overcoming adversity, and inspiring others. So with that said, we're going to get into mitzvah time. Today, I have a fabulous mitzvah from one of our viewers. Her name is Ann Rothney. So Ann, I hope you're listening. Thank you for sharing your mitzvah. Remember, I challenge everybody to do a special mitzvah, a good deed. So do something nice for somebody every day. And Ann, thank you for sharing. I'm going to share your mitzvah now. So Ann had a friend who committed suicide. And she knew that her friend's father, who passed away, her friend's father really didn't have many people in his life. He was living in a convalescent home, and she reached out to him. She befriended him. She communicated with him every day, gave him the support, the friendship, and just in doing that act alone, it's turned into a lifelong friendship. So Ann, fabulous good deed. I know that you do that with other people as well. You reach out daily to them. You are a very special, beautiful person. And, the world needs more people like you. So thank you. That was a beautiful mitzvah. Thank you for sharing with us. So remember, share your mitzvahs with me. I want to announce them and do a nice shout out to all of you. This week we have a giveaway. Well, we have a giveaway every week, but this week it's going to be my book. It Is What It Is. And you're going to love it because it's a book full of but it's all about my journey with breast cancer, and this is a saying that got me through everything, and it still gets me through everything in life, the title of this book. So remember, comment, like, and share, and this is how you will get a chance to win my book. Remember, comment, like, and share. Now, when we come back from this commercial break, don't you go anywhere, we're going to welcome a gentleman. His name is John Nistico. I hope I'm saying that right, because if I'm not, he'll correct me when we come back. He is a 9/11 first responder. He's a veteran. He's a father. He's a politician. He's running for governor of New York, so vote for him. And he is also a cancer survivor. He's battling cancer right now. So when we come back, you're going to meet John. Don't go far. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Silvermine at Home, a Connecticut-based non-medical home care agency servicing Connecticut and parts of New York. Silvermine caters to their clients' needs while offering peace of mind to their families so their loved one can age in place and live their best life possible. Call today to see how they can make a difference in you or your loved one's life. Our family caring for yours. Visit silvermineathome.com or call 203-228-5007.
Welcome back to It Is What It Is with Cindy Seville. I have John Nistico here. John, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. You're not too far. Right? Where do you live right now?
Plainview.
Okay. So it didn't take you
Hop,
that
skip,
long.
and a jump.
Yeah, it didn't take you that long. Where'd you grow up? Did you grow up in
Deer
Plainview?
Park.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So this is your turf. So let me ask you something. You have kids, right?
2 boys,
2 boys. How old are they?
21 and 26.
Okay, growing up. And what do you do for a living?
I own an electrical contracting company.
I need you to hook up my tanning bed. Because you
I'm
must know
there.
how to do all that stuff. I've had it for like 3 years, no, longer, since 2016 in my garage. So, where were you when 9/11 occurred?
The morning 9/11 occurred, I was on the 11th floor of a building in the Bronx with 6 of my guys, and we watched the whole event happen live.
Wow.
From start to finish, from the minute the first plane hit to the time the last tower came down.
Wow. So you saw the whole thing. That's
Everything.
Crazy. I mean, I remember, I think everybody remembers where they were when that happened. And I was rooted to my TV. I was home, of course, in Connecticut. Devastation, shock. You know, I can't even imagine seeing it firsthand.
It was difficult.
Yeah. And you don't know when it's going to stop either.
I think what made it bad for us was we had no idea at the time, because we didn't have TVs or radios on the job site.
Right.
So we thought it was an accident. We didn't think that it was an act of terrorism.
Right.
So we had no idea what was going on. All we knew was that, at first we knew that the World Trade Center was on fire, and then when the
Right.
towers came down, it was like, we need to get out of the city before they lock us in and we can't get out.
Yeah. It must have been a mad rush for everybody getting out of the city. I mean, I remember seeing video.
It was a disaster trying to get out of there.
Yeah. So you got out of New York that day. When did you go back to 9/11?
3:21 in the morning, September 12th. I was at the Red Cross headquarters on West Street in Brooklyn.
Wow. And what did you do there?
I was the communications operator from Ground Zero. We met and got all our radio gear in Brooklyn. They dropped me off at One Police Plaza in Manhattan. I got all my credentials so that I can carry all my stuff, and we road marched from 1 PP down to Ground Zero.
Wow. Now, it was just you and another gentleman, right?
Correct.
Now, the equipment, was that your equipment, or they gave you the equipment?
No, they gave us the equipment.
Okay. All right. Now, you're a veteran also.
Yes, I am.
Thank you for your service.
You're quite
And thank
welcome.
you for everything that you did for everybody. We'll get into that 9/11. Really appreciate that. What did you do in the military?
I was in radio communications.
Oh,
I've been
okay.
in radio communications. I started probably when I was 13 or 14. My mom got me a CB radio and I loved it, and I just been in the
Wow.
hobby ever since.
Wow. So the type of radio you use, I know a little bit about it because I had a client who was very into ham radios. What is a ham radio? I think of ham and cheese, but what's a ham radio?
It's commonly referred to as amateur radio. It's basically a broadcast method that's used worldwide.
Yeah.
They use different types of communication. You could use Morse code. You could use radio teletype, which was the original text message. You can even send video via radio.
Through a ham radio.
Through ham radio,
People
yes.
can actually see it?
You can send what they
How
call...
do you see it on a radio?
You use a computer and you use a monitor,
Wow.
and the computer transposes the signal into a picture, just like
Wow.
you do regular television.
Oh, that's wild. So the two of you were there for how long? I mean, you got the call from who? Somebody called you, or you
I got
called
the
them?
call from the head of the American Red Cross in Brooklyn, Charles Hargrove,
Okay.
and he basically said that he exhausted all his contacts, and when he reached out to ask people in the radio community, who do you think would go down, my name came up for some reason. I don't know why. And of course I said, yeah, I'll go, not knowing what I was going to be getting myself into.
Right.
We were scheduled to be down there for 72 hours. I got there on September 12th and returned home October 9th.
Wow. Did you ever leave your post? I mean, did you ever leave the area?
I
Did you ever go home
never
once?
left Ground Zero.
You were there. So what did you do? You ate there? You slept
Ate
there?
there, we slept there.
Wow.
It was basic, it was a mission. And
Where'd
it
you
was-
shower?
They had showers in some of the schools that
Yeah.
weren't that badly affected, and
Wow.
they trucked in water. So remember, we kept 15,000 people going throughout that entire recovery.
Wow. Wow. So you were there 29 days.
29 days.
Did my math. 29 days. Wow. Now, I mean, it must have been, I can't even imagine how devastating, and, you know, to walk, to be there, to be surrounded by all this. What did it look like?
Hell.
Yeah.
It basically was taking Manhattan and turning it into a big black and white disaster photo.
Yeah.
Everything was gray except the sky. The sky was blue, but everything on this ground was gray.
Wow.
Covered in, I can't even say inches, I would probably say feet of dirt. I mean, I'm 6'2", I had dust up to my calves.
Wow. Wow. So the two of you, it was just the two of you, and they never added anybody else?
No, some people got smart and said, yeah, we're not going down there.
Yeah.
We're crazy, we're not stupid.
Yeah, you know, I wanted to volunteer. Everybody, I mean, I know so many of my friends did. I mean, again, I'm in Connecticut. I was in Connecticut at the time, but I had a little one, and I couldn't leave my son. He was too little, and I wish I could have helped, but I'm glad that I didn't go because of the reasons what you're going through right now. I mean, I went through my own issues, but you know, what a lot of the first responders, you know, have been through. So, what were your responsibilities? The two of you with the ham radio?
Our responsibility was to coordinate basically everything that you saw on TV happened through us. People would bring us messages that we would pass to the Red Cross. We need 500 meals for the afternoon lunch, or we need a specialized piece of equipment, or we need a certain personnel for certain tasks, and everything came to us, and we passed it to the Red Cross in Brooklyn, and then the Red Cross made sure that we got what we needed. As you can imagine, the first week or so that we were there, the big issue was gloves and masks. They were going through construction gloves probably every 3 hours.
Wow.
A guy would go through a set of gloves, because you're digging through concrete and rebar and glass,
Yeah.
and the gloves were getting cut. The Home Depots on Long Island, I remember you could not get a set of gloves
Wow.
anywhere.
Wow. Did they give you safety gear when you went to 9/11?
Absolutely not.
Nothing.
Nothing.
So, you know what I think about? I think about COVID and how everybody's so, oh my God, wear your mask, wear your mask, wear your mask. And here you went into a disaster zone with chemicals, and, you know, I mean, we know, like, I don't know if there's asbestos, like, there's all that stuff, you know, that's probably toxic to inhale, and yet you guys were thrown into it with no protective gear whatsoever.
We were thrown into it with no protective gear because we were told that there was no danger to us.
Wow.
So none of us thought of bringing gear with us,
Right.
because at the time, the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, former New Jersey Governor Christy Todd Whitman, who was the head of the EPA, said, oh no, it's perfectly safe to go down there. Then we learned out years later
Yeah.
that was far from the truth. And of course, our government did what they do best and covered their own asses and said, well, she only conveyed the message that she was told to convey from her higher ups, and you can't hold her civilly liable. So
Right, right. Wow, so you guys were eating and drinking, and there was dust, and you were working and breathing. I mean, it's got to be terrible thinking back, you know, all of that toxicity around you.
it's what's sad to think about is that probably by the end of next year, at the rate we're going, we will have lost more first responders than we actually did in the towers.
Wow.
We average anywhere between 120 and 149 responders a year.
Wow. Wow. And they can prove it all came from...
Yes.
What were some of the illnesses, you know, that are in... I guess I remember when we were talking, you said that there are some that are cancers that are very specific to 9/11.
There are, I believe, last known 6 different types of cancers that only show up in people who were at ground zero, that they exist nowhere else in the world. Lung cancer was very prominent. Prostate cancer was big. They're finding now that male breast cancer has become huge in first responders.
Wow.
Skin cancer affects about 80% of first responders, which is what I'm going through now. I have a very aggressive form of skin cancer on my head and on my ears, and they're treating it very aggressively because it's in a very, very bad location to have it.
Right. Let me ask you, when you were there, I mean, you had a family at home. So what was that like, being at, ground zero and having your family back home?
It was tough. There was no real line of communication, direct communication. A lot of what I was doing was, I don't want to say use the word censored, but it was needed to be declassified before it could be spread out to news. We weren't allowed, when we were operating, we weren't allowed to use our exact locations because we weren't sure if we were still under attack.
Oh, wow.
So we did not tell them where our stations were set up,
Right.
because they didn't want people knowing where we were.
Right.
At the time, I had a young son who was probably just coming up on 1, and
Wow.
my now late wife, and it was tough on them because the first day I was down there, September 12th, 7 World Trade Center, which I believe was Deutsche Bank, collapsed.
Right.
And nobody had any idea if I was
Alive or dead.
part of the recovery effort, or I was still sitting in front of it. Nobody knew.
Right,
So, and you tell people, it's like, can somebody get a message that, yeah, I'm still here.
I'm alive. I'm here.
still alive.
I know. Wow. Now, were you paid for that time you were there?
It was all volunteer.
So 29, amazing. You gave of yourself. I mean, you put yourself in danger's way, to help so many people. And I know that you also helped a lot of the people try and find their loved ones.
Yeah, that was I think the toughest part of the job.
Yeah.
Is trying to deal with families who weren't sure where their loved ones were, if they survived. The first 5 to 7 days, there was a lot of disinformation, and everybody was hoping amongst hope that there were survivors, and there were a couple of people who perpetrated hoaxes, who snuck into the pile and claimed to have survived, the collapse of the tower.
Terrible.
Yeah. There was one guy who, I remember the story vividly, who had snuck in, I guess, in the middle of the night and crawled down into the basement of One World Trade Center, and they found him the following day, and he claimed that he was there and he would survive the collapse of the tower, and it was God's will that he be there. And then when they started doing some investigation, they pinged his cell phone, and they found out that at the time he was in New Jersey.
Wow. Unbelievable that people would take advantage of such a terrible situation. Some people are pretty sick.
That goes back to what I was saying about dealing with the families and loved ones of these people who perished, is that, you see something like that on TV, and the TV didn't vet it. It was an in the moment thing.
Yeah.
And, they're like, oh my God, here's a guy who rode this down, or survived, or found a pocket, maybe our loved one. And you're giving these people false hope.
Right.
That maybe, and I was there. I could see that there was not going to be any survivors in that.
Right. Well, we're going to take a commercial break. This was a great segment. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back with more with John.
Do you or a loved one need the care of a nursing home? A vibrant community to call home where there are healthcare professionals available 24/7? Candlewood Valley Health and Rehabilitation, located in New Milford, Connecticut, has been offering award-winning care for over 40 years. Whether you are rehabilitating from a cardiac procedure or hip replacement, or seeking a place for your loved one to live where he or she can receive top-notch health care, our team is at the ready. We also accept veteran benefits and offer a special, secure memory care unit for residents with Alzheimer's or cognitive-related conditions. Call us at 860-355-0971. Candlewood Valley Health and Rehabilitation, a place to heal and thrive.
Welcome to Sunday Dinner with Chef Clemente. This is an all-new show about family cooking, Sunday dinner, things we did as a child, bringing back some memories and some tradition. This is how this dish was born. I'm going to show you that in just a couple of minutes. So, the trick with the meatballs too, when you fry them, you don't want to overcrowd the pan too much. The drizzle, not too much of olive oil, right on top of that fish. So, a little flour. A little egg, cella luna, met somebody, everybody drink some wine. Everybody still going. Pass them around, everybody eat a little bit. Come on, we gotta dance. Oh my God! Get together, go visit your mother, your sister, your cousin. Bring some pastries, some food, get together, eat, drink, be happy. Who wants some linguine, clams, and pastries?
Welcome back to It Is What It Is with Cindy Seville and John Nistico. I did say it right. Hi, John.
Hi, Cindy.
So I want to ask you about something. I know it's a tough subject for you. I mean, the whole subject is tough, but the Bucket Brigade. You were telling me a little bit about the Bucket Brigade.
The Bucket Brigade.
Yes. Watching it on TV, we obviously didn't know everything that was going on.
The people got spoon-fed what the media wanted them to see.
Which is always the case, right?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
The Bucket Brigade, there were separate Bucket Brigades. There was not just one Bucket Brigade where they showed you the people sifting out the rubble.
I vividly remember that. Yeah.
That was one of part of what the Bucket Brigade was. There were 3 different color buckets. There was a green, there was a red, there was a white. The white bucket was just basically for debris from the site, construction debris, stuff that just needed to be moved off of the pile so that they can look for, for survivors or for bodies. The Green Bucket Brigade was personal effects that we found, wallets, rings, watches, anything that could help identify that person was at the World Trade Center. The red buckets were the buckets for the body parts. And there were a lot of body parts. There were probably more parts than there were whole bodies.
Wow.
And people ask me all the time, they say, sometimes you come across as being a little crazy. And I'm like, till you've carried a human head in a 5-gallon bucket, I said, you have no idea where I've been.
Wow.
And there were guys out there who did that. And it's traumatizing. And, one of the bad things that came out of 9/11 is that none of us qualify for aid for PTSD.
I was going to ask you, do you have PTSD? I mean, it's probably a stupid question because how can you not?
I think anybody who witnessed the events live or on TV suffered some sort of PTSD, which is the reason why there is no claim for PTSD in the Victim Compensation Fund, because the entire world can say, well, we saw it on TV and we're traumatized.
Right.
Yes, there is myself and many others out there who suffer from it. I have a group of people who I deal with, and that's what we do. We support each other and try to get over the PTSD. There are some people out there who still have nightmares, who still have flashbacks, who have certain things that bring them right back to being on the pile.
What brings you right back?
Smells.
That's something that you took from there, something you'll never forget.
The auditory sense is the strongest sense in the human body. And what a lot of people don't understand about being at ground zero, especially anybody who was there for time, is that the odor changed the longer you were there. When you were first there, it was your typical fire type of smells, you know,
Right.
burning stuff, burning insulation.
Right.
We lost 3,000 people in that building. There was roughly 5,000 pounds of human flesh and blood laying in holes
Wow.
that started to decompose. And a week, 10 days later, that's the smell that started to rear its ugly head. And that's the smell that a lot of people have flashbacks.
Wow.
I mean, I had a guy in my group who told me, he goes, my wife burned her finger on her curling iron, and he goes, the next thing I knew, I was standing on the pile.
Wow.
Because just that smell of
Yeah,
burning
brought him
human
back.
flesh brought him
Right.
back to that site.
Right. Do you have nightmares?
Not anymore.
But you did.
For a long time,
Yeah.
for months and months afterwards.
Yeah. What was it like with the family members? I mean, all around you, crying, I'm sure, screaming. I know the devastation, the fear.
They,
You know?
they wouldn't let us out of a certain area at certain points because there were so many family members, and if you wandered too far away from the pile and you got caught up into it,
Right.
it became everybody just wanted a piece of you. Can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help? And
Right.
your heart feels for them, but you at the same token, you don't want to give them any false hope, or you don't want to give them any information that's going to cause them any more grief than they're already going through. So
Right.
try, as much as it hurt, you just put your head down and you just walk and you just try to silence it out of your head.
Right. Did you have friends or family members that passed in this?
No, I did not.
Okay. Okay.
I've had friends, people I went to school with, who have passed because they were down there. I've got a very good friend of mine who got me into the World Trade Center Health Foundation,
Right.
who is suffering immensely
Right.
with all sorts of medical issues, and it's just a shame. It's a shame what they did to us.
Oh, it's terrible. Now, what sort of medical issues are you dealing with now? And actually, let me backtrack. When did you start? You know, because this was obviously 9/11, many years ago now. When did they start?
5 years ago, I suffered a sports injury, and I went for an MRI, and the MRI caught part of my right lung, and they found 3 small masses, and I went to Winthrop Thoracic Surgery in Mineola, New York. They ran a series of tests and said, because of your exposure, we're not taking any chances, we're not treating. They went in, they did a robotic surgery called a wedge resection, and they took part of the middle lobe of my right lung out.
Wow.
2 years after that, I developed severe sinus problems. I had hundreds of sinus polyps. And I went in the first time, and they fixed the septum in my nose because it was deviated, and they took the polyps out. What happened was about 18 months after they did that, the polyps not only came back, but they came back more.
Wow.
So the doctor took the polyps out, and he drilled a hole in my upper sinus bone to make a little more room to try to afford me more time
Yeah.
between surgeries.
Right.
And that didn't work, so what they wound up finally doing the last surgery was they took the entire sinus bone out
Wow.
and just put a stent in there. So it's been,
So you have a stent in there.
I
now?
have a titanium stent in my forehead
Wow.
rather than a sinus bone, and it's open wide enough so that hopefully the next 5 years I won't have to go back and have my sinuses cleaned out again, but
Right,
we
right,
won't
right.
know until the time comes. We'll see
Right.
how much time it affords me.
So after this now, how did you, I mean, you have skin cancer. So how was that determined? How was that picked up? by the doctor?
Every year I go to the Trade Center Health Foundation. I get a complete physical that they pay for, thank God.
Yeah.
And
That's the least they can do.
every year I go to a dermatologist.
Yeah.
But because of COVID, I couldn't see a dermatologist for a couple of years. And I noticed that I had a spot on the top of my left ear and a spot on the back of my head. And it would come, it would go. I wouldn't think much of it. Grow, it would shrink. I was like,
Yeah.
you know, it's probably nothing. Finally found a dermatologist who would take me, who would take the Trade Center insurance, and
Oh, it's a special insurance. Okay.
yeah, only
Not all
certain
doctors?
not all doctors
Wow.
accept World
Wow.
Trade Center compensation.
And you have that for life.
Yes.
Okay. Which, thank God.
So I went in, and the doctor looked at my ear, and he's looked at the back of my head, and he says, "I'm taking these 2 spots right now." And I go, well, "What exactly does that mean?" He goes, "I'm going to take a part of your scalp off, and I'm going to take part of your ear off." And I was like, "Okay." I said, I guess that's bad." And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "But not as bad as the fact I got to do 5 other biopsies."
Oh, wow.
So they did 5 other biopsies. They rushed them. Normally it's a 10-day turnaround. I got mine in 4.
Oh, wow.
And he says, "You have a very aggressive form of skin cancer. It's on your scalp." He goes, "It's very close to where the bone is, which we're afraid it's
Okay.
going to metastasize to the bone." So they treated it very aggressively. And now I'm in, today would be day 12 of 30.
Wow. 30 days of radiation.
30 days of radiation, 5 days a week.
And
for
you're
6
right in the
weeks.
midst of it. Thank you for coming here.
You know what? I can't let it stop me,
You can't.
because once you let it stop you, it wins. So
Exactly. Now, you saw, I mean, obviously a lot of your friends, the first responders, started getting sick. And did you think at any time that you were invincible, that it wasn't going to happen to you because it hadn't happened yet, so it probably wasn't going to happen? Or were you just, was it like a ticking bomb, you know?
one likes to think that they're invincible.
Your kids
Superman.
think you're invincible, right?
My kids, my friends, they all think I'm Superman.
Yeah.
Superman had kryptonite. And for those who follow DC Comics, he had Doomsday too. So
Yes.
I was hoping it wasn't going to affect me, because I know
Right.
some people who haven't been affected yet.
Right.
I somehow in the back of my mind had it that eventually it was going to catch up to me.
Right.
You just know that 9/11 wasn't my first disaster site. And
Okay.
I've been to so many sites, and you see so much, and you've been exposed to so much. You just wonder, when do I roll the dice one too many times?
Yeah.
And I gotta say that it took me 15 years to get sick, so compared to a lot of the guys who are already gone,
Yeah.
I can't knock what's happening. All I could do is, remember them and remember how hard they fought, and just continue to fight
Right.
every single solitary day.
Yeah. Are you angry?
I'm angry, hurt, disappointed. I've resigned from the Red Cross. I will not be doing any more emergency work for them. I still run into burning buildings, even though people
Because that's
tell me,
just in you.
because it's just
Of
who
course.
I am.
Of course. You are a rescuer.
I think I'm more disappointed in the situation on so many different levels, just because of, we let this happen to us in our own backyard. Our government tried to take the funding away from people who put their lives on hold to try to help other people. We can't get the information about the Saudi Arabian involvement in this and the money that the Saudis owe all of us first responders. It's a lot of disappointment. My anger is more towards myself for putting myself in a position that I put myself in. People ask me if I had it to do all over again, would I do it?
That was my next question. I was going to ask you that.
That would be the only burning building I wouldn't run into if I had it to do all over again.
Right.
And I say that, and I know damn well in my heart I would be right back there.
Of course, because that's just who you are. You know, it's either you give of yourself, you're a protector. Yeah, you probably would do it all over again.
I would, as much as I say I don't.
Maybe safer, maybe knowing, but you, who would have known? You know, who would have known? You trusted what?
Hindsight is always 20/20.
Always.
And experience is always your best teacher. Knowing now what I learned from then, and hopefully anybody who's a responder learned from our experiences, not just from watching it on TV, but from listening to people speak about it, know that when you are going to an environment like that, that you cannot rely on the people who are sending you there to prepare you. You need to be prepared on your own.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they will sell you out. They will leave you there high and dry and unsupported.
Right.
You have to protect and take care of yourself, because nobody else is going to do it
That
for you.
goes for everything in life. You know, you have to be your own advocate. But that's a good stopping point. We're going to take another break.
Okay.
This is good. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this commercial break with more with John.
Silvermine at Home, a Connecticut-based non-medical home care agency servicing Connecticut and parts of New York. Silvermine caters to their clients' needs while offering peace of mind to their families so their loved one can age in place and live their best life possible. Call today to see how they can make a difference in you or your loved one's life. Our family caring for yours. Visit silvermineathome.com or call 203-228-5007. Do you or a loved one need the care of a nursing home? A vibrant community to call home where there are healthcare professionals available 24/7? Candlewood Valley Health and Rehabilitation, located in New Milford, Connecticut, has been offering award-winning care for over 40 years. Whether you are rehabilitating from a cardiac procedure or hip replacement, or seeking a place for your loved one to live where he or she can receive top-notch health care, our team is at the ready. We also accept veteran benefits and offer a special secure memory care unit for residents with Alzheimer's or cognitive-related conditions. Call us at 860-355-0971. Candlewood Valley Health and Rehabilitation, a place to heal and thrive.
The Suki and Scott Show.
This is one of the funnest shows I've ever done.
Lady, when you're with me, I'm smiling.
It's musical. It's magical.
This is a sexy show. Someone's getting some action.
Now, these larger-than-life personalities are on an exciting new journey. The Suki and Scott Show is your one-stop destination for humor,
You like De Niro and Cape Fear. Counselor!
entertainment,
Jesse's girl.
wonderful,
Can you paint with all the colors of the wind?
and optimism.
You guys have such amazing energy.
Let's laugh together.
I love him.
The Suki and Scott Show.
Welcome back to It Is What It Is with Cindy Seville and John Nistico. So, John, let me ask you, have they identified everybody from 9/11 that perished at 9/11, or
To my
missing?
knowledge, no. I don't believe that everybody has been accounted for.
Okay. And how many people passed? How many people did they?
3,028,
Wow.
I believe.
How long did it take? I mean, when you left, you know, after 29 days of being there, what did it look like when you left? I mean, when you got there, you had debris everywhere, you know, up to your knees, and it was gray, there was dust, what did it look like when you left 29 days
It looked
later?
like what it it looked like a danker version of what it is now, which was basically 2 square holes in the ground. By the time I left, a lot of the debris had been taken out, and it was basically at that point just more of a cleanup effort than anything else.
Right.
Which then turned into the memorial that we have now. So it was just 2 big holes in the ground where these beautiful buildings used to stand. I remember watching them go up as a kid.
Wow. And you watched them go down.
And I watched them go down.
That's crazy.
It's kind of ironic that I got to watch the rise and the fall of the World Trade Center now.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that before until just now.
See that?
I remember growing up in the 70s and 80s and watching the buildings go up, and then I got to watch somebody take them down.
It's crazy. That's crazy. Do you know I've never been to the site since it went down?
I was there once.
How was that?
20 years. It was horrifying.
Yeah.
Horrifying. I did an interview for an organization called nightmarish, and they were in the footprint of what's now the Freedom Tower. And I'll be honest with you, it was probably the most scared I've ever been in my lifetime.
Wow. Because talk about PTSD, being there at the scene.
I've tried to go back. I've tried to go down
Right.
to Ground Zero, and could not get myself to go there. And they asked me to come and do this, and I did it, and it was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you mentioned something to me on the phone about acceptance and closure. What's the difference between acceptance and closure?
The difference between acceptance and closure. Acceptance, I have to accept that I have cancer. I have to accept that I have to fight the battle.
Right.
The closure comes at the end, when it's either determined that there's a victory or there's not a victory.
Right.
That's your closure. And for the people who lost loved ones, they had to accept that they may never see their loved one again. And then when they got the closure that they found this or they found that, it gave them that closure. And there are families out there who still don't have closure, and it's sad, and it's just, you feel for those people. You know, they say they have closure, but you truly don't until, you know.
You need something tangible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have no tangible.
Something.
Nothing finalized
Right.
about
It could be
the situation.
a wallet. It could be a ring. It could be, you know, I mean,
a set of glasses, a wallet, a drive.
Yes.
I know people who had funerals for driver's licenses.
Wow.
But that gave,
But it was
that
something.
gave them closure.
Right.
And if that's what gives you closure, then so be it. That's your closure.
Right. Right. Your support group. Now, you started this how long ago?
3 years ago.
Okay. And how did that come to be?
It got to be me talking to somebody else, and, you know, then it turned into, well, you know, I got a friend who was down there, and the next thing you know, COVID hit, so then we're on Zoom, and then somebody shares a Zoom link with somebody, and next thing you know, you got 5 people from the tri-state area, and then you got people from Pennsylvania, and you know, I got one person from Iowa. Iowa or Idaho.
They flew out
They
to help?
flew out here,
Wow.
and you know, they're like, yeah, you know, I can sympathize with that. I was there, and it was horrible. We don't have any of that out here. And I'm like, how many skyscrapers out in Iowa? Don't think you're going to drive a plane into a cornfield.
Right. Right. Wow.
So we meet once a week, and
Nice.
you know, whoever shows up, and whoever doesn't,
Right.
you know, we just hope that they're okay.
Are you open to receiving, you know, welcoming new members?
Welcome anybody.
Okay. All right. Afterwards, you'll have to tell people how to reach you. Now, you're in politics.
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of, sort of.
I think you look very patriotic right there.
Thank you.
I like the red, white, and blue.
Thank you.
Listen, you did so much for our country. I mean, thank you.
My country's done so much for me. It's not a matter of what we do. You know, John F. Kennedy said, that's not what your country could do for you, but what you can do for your country. And the country's given me a lot. It's, you know, it's given me a business. It's given me a fantastic family.
Yeah.
So it's the least I could do is giving back.
So you're running for governor.
Yes.
Woohoo! Elections are in November?
November.
Okay, I'm so politically ignorant.
That's okay. Actually, today is the Republican candidate runoff.
Oh, so what are you?
I am part of the Constitution Party.
Okay.
It's the 5th largest political party in the United States. And we try to bring constitutional values to New York and to the United States. I think part of the problem with our political system is everybody's locked into Democrat and Republican, and nobody wants to look past those two parties. You're either a Democrat or you're a Republican. You know, you don't hear about the independents. You don't hear about the libertarians. You don't hear about the Constitution Party. You don't hear about the Green Party. You don't hear about any other parties. All you hear about is the Democrats and the Republicans. And it's by design, because they don't want their money and their power taken from them. But like I asked the question, and I probably asked it this morning, knowing that all my people on Facebook were voting, vote Zeldin, vote Giuliani, vote this one. I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. You vote for whatever your candidate is. Your candidate then goes on and wins the governorship, beats me somehow, manages to beat me. And then they get into office. Now they told you they're going to lower crime, and they're going to lower taxes, and they're going to do this, and they're going to fund the police. When that candidate doesn't do what they said, who do you blame for that? And nobody on Facebook will answer that question. Who do you blame when your candidate fails you? You know who you blame? You blame yourself. You voted them there. But will you look past that person and that party and say, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to vote another Republican in, or I'm going to vote another Democrat in? I'm going to get the same result. But yet you won't look at a minor party candidate who maybe has a vision and is one of the people who's out there working on the streets and hear what people are complaining about and says, well, you know, this is a way to fix things, and has a plan on how to fix things.
You have a plan?
I have a lot of plans. I have a lot of good plans. It's funny that I listen to the top GOP gubernatorial candidates talk about how they're going to lower crime. And they're going to lower crime by refunding the police and getting rid of cashless bail. That's not going to lower crime. What that's going to do is it's going to bring crime back to the level it was prior to that. How do you stop the crime? How do you make crime less in New York? Not put it back to where it was prior to these ridiculous policies, but how do you get it to be less? You get it to be less by stiffer penalties. Anybody who perpetrates a crime against a uniformed person in the state of New York, EMS, fire, police, that person should be charged with a felony, and they should do a mandatory 1 year in jail.
I agree.
No ifs, ands, buts, no plea bargains. I don't care if you have the best attorney on the planet or you have a public defender. I don't care what color you are, you know, whatever. You put your hands on a responder, you're going to jail. I don't care if it's a bus driver. You punch a bus driver in the face, you're going to go to jail.
I love that. You know, the one thing we are lacking in this country is respect. There's like...
We lack two things in this.
Okay,
two things in this country that we lack.
I'm sure there's a lot of other things.
Accountability.
Yes.
And discipline.
Yeah.
Criminals have more rights than the people they rob.
The police can't do their job.
The police can do their job. The prosecutors won't do their job. You can arrest 1,000 people a day, but if a prosecutor won't press a charge, what's the sense? And it's a trickle-down effect. If the prosecutor isn't going to do their job, then why should I do mine? Because all I'm going to do is arrest this guy,
He's just going to get out.
He's going to get out. Perfect example. 2 guys the other day caught with 150,000 fentanyl pills.
Wow.
Street value, $750,000. It had the potential to kill, I think they said 28 million people.
Oh my God.
They're out. They're out of jail in California. They let them out.
Wow.
Fentanyl, people do not overdose on fentanyl. People are poisoned by fentanyl.
Yes.
Poisoning is murder.
Yes.
If you took these low-level street distributors and they sell fentanyl-laced drugs and they kill somebody, you charge them with murder. It's not an accidental overdose. You put the drug in the product that you sold. You were negligent. You created negligent homicide, and you arrest them.
Do you know that I don't know a whole lot about drugs, but I just learned about fentanyl because a woman that, a friendly acquaintance of mine, she told me the story about how her daughter was drugged with fentanyl, enough fentanyl to kill an elephant, like a person the size of an elephant. She was at a party. She wasn't even drinking. She had a water bottle in her hand, and she died. And she died, and she never did drugs. It wasn't her thing. She was a studious, girl going back for her master's. And she told me that there is such, a problem with fentanyl out there.
One of the gentlemen I play softball with on Sundays, his daughter was a fantastic athlete.
Yeah.
Wasn't into drugs, was at a sleepover one night, took what she thought was a prescription Percocet, and she died.
Yeah.
One pill, the only pill she's ever took in her life, and it killed her.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Tell people, if you can, how they could find you. Because they're going to vote for you in November.
You can find me at NISTICO, the number 4, gov.com, or they can just look me up on Facebook, like you did.
Yes. I found you, and I learned a little bit about you, and I thought, wow, I got to talk to this guy. You've got a
and
lot
now you're regretting it.
No, I'm thrilled. Actually, what a great interview, and really, you're a great person. You've done so many wonderful things. You continue to do, and the treatments. I really hope that your treatments go smoothly. I pray, as from one cancer. I'm going to give you my book here. Also, I'm going to give you a copy.
Thank you.
It is what it is. One cancer survivor to another, because you're going to beat this. I know it's tough going through it all, and I know you're a big bad guy, but big tough guy, not bad guy. You're a good guy. You're a big tough guy, but it's scary. It's really scary.
And I joke with my friends and my kids, and they all worry about me. I say, you got nothing to worry about. I go, heaven doesn't want me. Hell's afraid I'll take over. So I'm stuck here with you guys, and they all laugh.
I love it. Well, you're going to be around for a long time, so.
Yeah, I'm stubborn that way.
Yeah. Thank you, John, for being on my show.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
I appreciate it. We could probably do another few hours. There's a lot more to talk about. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to end with my final thoughts. First, I want to thank all the first responders for 9/11 and all the first responders out there. Thank you for all you do, all the veterans. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, John Nistico, for everything you've done. Something that my rabbi told me when I was young. He said, you have to tell the story, because if you don't tell the story, you're going to forget the story. So you have to retell the story. Some of you may have forgotten details. Some of you don't know much about it. For example, the Holocaust. I'm Jewish, and the Holocaust was a big thing. And the rabbi always said, you need to share the story. You need to retell the story, because if you don't, people forget, and it can happen again. So tell the story. We're telling the story. John is telling the story. And it's something that most of us will never forget, but we don't want our children to forget and our grandchildren to forget. So stay safe out there. Thank you again, John. Thanks again to all you first responders. And I will see you next week, but don't forget, comment, like, and share so you can win one of these wonderful books. They're very entertaining. And in addition, send me your mitzvot. The many mitzvahs, send me a mitzvah so that I can announce it on the show live, and I can do a nice little shout out for you. So thank you again, I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Live your life like a dreamer. Fly all over the world. Open yourself so the world can see. You're a beautiful pearl. Live your day like you mean it. And don't forget who you are. You're free to go